horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's not
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a very warm welcome to the Barstewards Inquiry Sunday Sermon. My name's Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk, and with me today are my two counterparts. We've got John Lang from John Joe's Blogspot, my all-time partner in crime, and joining him is Lorne Malver for a second appearance on the Barstewards. Or is it third? Is it third? Oh, no. There was the one runner-up halfway through. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. No guarantees it won't happen this time. I think I'll have to put another shilling in the meter, but we'll see.
Right, gents. Straight on with the proceedings today. Hope you're both well. And obviously, Saturday was quite the drama. Not just for horse racing performances, but certainly other things that got in the way, as is the want at Sandown. And obviously, the big talking point of Saturday wasn't necessarily St Mark Basilica romping home in the eclipse. It was the absolute mess that started the first race of the day, where Judge Green stated that horse that finished second had won the race, and then a catastrophe ensued when it transpired that wasn't the winner of the race. Then all of a sudden it was called a dead heat after a steward's inquiry. They blamed the mirror. What do you make of all this, gents? John, start me off with what you think what happened yesterday.
It really was a shocking pile of bollocks, wasn't it? From start to finish. I mean, they were making excuses about equipment and things, but if the equipment was dodgy, I'll never for the life of me understand why she's called anything in the first place when she's called the wrong one the winner. Yeah. If there was an equipment problem, they should have been on it anyway. Secondly, to call that a dead heat, it's a woeful lack of initiative, because everybody else that's interested in that race can see a perfectly accurate freeze frame on racing TV or ITV showing that the other one's won. So why don't they use a bit of initiative? Don't tell me they haven't got access to television pictures and call it the winner. It's common sense, which is sadly lacking in this sport, I'm afraid.
I mean, it does say a lot when, this has happened before at Sandown, and there's been winning post mistaken because they've had two winning posts, things like that. The absolute mess that racing. It just beggars belief that you cannot imagine any other professional sport. Imagine Olympics and doing that. They're giving the gold medal out and they've got it wrong. This is I would say it's quite a regular occurrence in racing. I think one of these happens a year. Give me some stats on one, but it seems like that. It seems like there's one of these every year. Wrong result called, and they have to then undo the mess. Afterwards. And
that's the problem, Lee, though, isn't it? The people in charge. I know you and John have put a few tweets out last week saying that people running the game have got sort of. I say my cue was the PG Tips monkeys, which I take issue with, because Mr. Shifter was good at moving pianos and wearing bowler hats, so I take issue with that. So I think the problem is actually, I think the people in the BHA, I think they're quite bright people as individuals, but the problem is they don't live in the world that you and I and everybody else inhabits. So they don't think that there's anything fundamentally wrong with any aspect of the sport, because if they did, you're right, they would come out and throw money at it and sort it out and professionalise it. But the people that are in the ivory towers, there's nothing wrong with the sport. This is fine. And I think that also racing has got a problem. I don't think racing actually, in its heart of hearts, believes that it is elite sport, right? I really don't think that they actually buy into it. Yes, it is from the purposes of the government, sort of the COVID trial, etc. But if it was elite sport, they would treat it as such and manage it as such. And I think racing just feels it's somewhere between a nice pastime with a bit of sport thrown in. And I think it's between those two, that rock and a hard place, because they clearly are not running it like elite sports should be run. No way at all.
Absolutely bang on the money with more or less everything you've said there. And like you say, I mean, the fact that throughout this, a lot of sports have had test events, and we got, I think it was 12,000 for Ascot.
Yes.
But I mean, you look at other things where they've not applied for any other like venue to have more customers, more paying customers. It's beyond beggars belief.
I mean, look, just an example of the mindset, and it's going slightly off topic, but look at that publicity for, I think it was the Magnolia Cup, which John sort of said looked like Who's Who or Burke's Peerage entry, and we can sit there and laugh, and rightly so, but someone or a group of people produced that campaign, got it signed off, and then turned to each other and said, we fucking nailed that, we've smashed it, pats on the back, everyone's done really, really well, because in their minds that was a fantastic piece of work that showcases racing as a diverse sport, whereas everyone else can see that the only diversity there is, one woman can trace her lineage from to the House of Stuart, and the other one to the Jacobite Rebellion or whatever, so that's diverse enough. Various branches of the aristocracy. But that's the problem. These people don't think there's a problem. They think that's a great piece of work. They've probably got a pat on the back, staff bonus or whatever. It's a mindset thing, I think.
I mean, back to the photo thing yesterday. I mean, not one piece of regard for exchange punters yesterday.
No, none whatsoever.
So basically 103 in the photo. Obviously, it's huge sums of money traded in the photo, as there always is. And then that was then followed by 1 to 10 in the ensuing inquiry.
Yeah.
Obviously, because everyone thought, well, it's a mistake, it's going to get the race. Yeah. And then the bizarre decision afterwards that it's a dead heat. And I think, again, you need faith in the people running it, because when money's exchanging hands, which is what the game's all about, even though ITV Racing don't seem to promote much on betting recently, it is all about betting, and that's cost people a lot of money, vice versa. You can imagine the carnage in some people's betting accounts after that race yesterday. And nothing said. It's just totally brushed aside. And for me, as I said, I honestly believe it's not the equipment. It was never the equipment. I can't have it. It was just literally, that's to get the heat off the judge, who's made a catastrophic error. It could have been easily put right within 5 minutes. Just change the result. Everything's fine. I think everyone would have accepted the error call, and we'd have moved on. But they dug a bigger hole for me to protect their own, and that's what the BHA are about: protecting their own. They've no responsibility. It's like, well, what can we do? It's equipment. Do you agree with that, John?
I do entirely. Yeah. I mean, it all points to it, because as you say, I mean, she called the result.
Yeah, and like Haggis, he's being the post today, saying that they're going to appeal, and rightfully so. Because like Haggis says, if the photo equipment was wrong, right? So the print that she must have read is the other print, and so then how is she called the other one the winner? Because on the print that's supposedly not the correct print because of the mirror, you can clearly see that Hurricane Ivor is the winner. As clear as day. So again, it's just, for me, it's just they're just trying to. I don't trust the BHA one iota, and that's basically where that fits in there. And I mean that follows on, John, from obviously the clerk of the course, who decides that on the morning of the eclipse, and he did the same the day before, he decides he's going to walk the track at 7:30. So everyone's refreshing the BHA site at 8:30. No updates, none, no. And what do you make of that? That a clerk is not giving the going at 8:30 on the morning of the eclipse.
Well, isn't it? I mean, as Chris says, it's just supposedly an elite sport, but it's just run like a picnic with a bit horses running past in the background. There's absolutely no thought to people wagering their hard earned on this. You know, I mean, you've got like good ground going in the farm boats to a certain extent. I mean, good to soft straight the Group 3 5, 3.24 seconds slow.
Yeah.
You know, for good to soft. You've got a Class 2 handicap over the mile, 3.2 slow. They seem to go a fair out clip. You know, and the listed race later on was a tenth of a second quicker. You know, I mean, maybe soft ground terms, aren't they? You know, I mean, I don't think they were the worst culprits on Saturday. I think the going at Beverley was an absolute disgrace. I mean, we've got good to firm, good in places in the farm book. Anybody looking at the farm book for that first race, you got a beaten favourite that never went a yard, and they changed it to good after the first race. But you know, I mean, then they were saying later on, like Sharp Combo that ran the race, you know. Stephen Edwards, who did the analysis, said Sharp Combo was possibly unsuited by the easing ground conditions. So is he saying this needs tarmac? You know, because I mean this was supposedly good ground. What do you do when you're looking at the farm book and then looking at the analysis?
Well, I think Beverley's becoming typical of many, well, nearly all the courses now, in that you only need a sharp shower. You know, 3 or 4 mils come down quickly, and you can see the whole turf get. They knock the top off. There's mud flying.
Well,
The bends at Beverley become chewed up. It's unbelievable.
Mm.
yeah.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Because the only people that actually really care about the changes in the ground are, well, fundamentally punters and, of course, the horses running. The clerks are only interested in the change of the ground to see if the stewards can get their cars out of the car park if it starts raining. That's it. You know, is the car park too muddy to get the shooting brake out? Because punting is so marginalised, who cares what the ground is? It's only the punters that care. And because the BHA don't understand that, it's never, ever going to be accorded top priority, I don't think.
Well, going back to that first race at Beverley, I mean, the close-up in the post says the favourite in that race, chase leaders, pushed along from far out, ridden in some headway from over one out, kept on inside final furlong, not paced to challenge. Then we say, trainers' representatives said Colt was unsuited by the ground and would prefer a quicker surface. Bear in mind, this is ground officially described as good to firm, good in places. So what the hell does that horse want? You know,
Yeah.
Then the going changed to good to soft after the 252, which appears what it was at the start of the card. And the last 2 races run on soft. You know, and add in the fact there was a massive wait for a stick reading for this race. You know, I mean, she was going to walk it at 3 o'clock the night before or something. Anyway, you couldn't get a stick reading, could you? For love of money.
It was too dark. That's why. 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep. No stick reading at Sandown either. So
No.
it literally is a sport that is run by absolute chimpanzees.
Well, it's just to finish off. It's a bit like now it seems to me a bit like show jumping, isn't it? We'll run it as professionally as we can, and we'll have crowds in with picnics, etc. But it's not elite sport, is it? And that's the sense I get that racing has at the moment. It's a day out with some horses running in the background, and that's sort of it.
Absolutely, and I'll get over to some listeners' comments now on all of this. The tweet of the weekend from it for me was from John Nolan, who loved John Nolan. He's fantastic. Mr. Swarfiger himself said, stick readings are fucked. Photo finishes are fucked. Group 1s with fields you could fit in a phone box. Prize money worse than 20 years ago. Nepotism rife. When crowds are back, we'll get more football-style fights. Drugs in Ireland. Convince me there is hope, please.
There isn't any, is there? That all sound quite good. You know, drugs, punch up, piss up, brilliant. I mean, what's not to like?
I mean, it literally is just. I mean, that tweet sums it up for me. I mean,
Yeah.
BHA should. I tagged the BHA in that, and I hope they actually read that, because that is actually what it is. And Frankie on the blower says plenty of discussion on here about descriptions, going descriptions, and overwatering. Which race courses, John, do you think get it right more than others? Newmarket, he says, usually has a track bias, but at least they get the going description right more than most. What would you say? Who gets it right and who gets it wrong, John?
As regards the going description, Red could get it right. There's a bias. There has been a bias of late, but they get it right as regard. They're quite honest about what you're going to be racing on. I think York are quite accurate with the actual going description, but you've still got the usual York problems. I think that's probably about it in the north. Maybe Thirsk, but they're up to overwater. I think you can get plenty of Clemish line on that top bend. But the rest of the northern courses I've been pretty wary of, to be honest.
Yeah. Chris, any tracks that you think get it right more than most, or maybe get it wrong more than most?
Don't have a view. I mean, all I would say is anecdotally, I think Newmarket, when they say it's a certain, it's soft, good to soft, whatever, they're generally backed up by the times. But look, I mean, I could probably list all those ones that don't do it, probably with more regularity. So Newmarket for me.
Yeah. I'm not sure about getting it right, but I mean, Doncaster is on my one to be wary list, because it's another track that basically has a 4mm shower, and it can be good to firm, and then it's good to soft in places literally after a few races, which again, that says they chuck plenty on. And it's like what Nick Davies said about going stick readings over the last 10 years have drastically declined. And we're genuinely not getting quick ground anymore. And like I said, I don't know who's behind this. Trainers must have a lot of influence, because, I mean, as John said before about John Gosden's only got to have a word with a clerk of the course, and you can bet your life he'll possibly even turn the taps on or off for whatever Gosden says. It gets to situations like that where some trainers have a lot of power, and I think that's where we're at. I've no idea. Like the bends at Beverley on Saturday were horrendous. It was absolutely chewed up, and I'm amazed that horses don't suffer injuries. In fact, probably horses do, and we just don't get to hear about it because they're at a modest level, and horse might have just pulled.
The thing is, Lee, you will hear about it, but the problem being half the time it's going in the farm book has been injured on good to firm.
Yeah,
good
point.
And they're saying, "Oh God, we can't run that on good to firm again." Well, of course you can, because it was watered to death. Yeah.
Chuck some more water on. It's dangerous ground. Too fast.
It's like I keep saying, there is not a single stat for injuries on watered good to firm ground. It all gets blamed on good to firm, and that is a massive, massive issue.
It is. Right, we move on. We'd love to talk about that more and slag them off even more. Cooper at Sandown, he's definitely on my idiots list. I mean, he was the first one basically announcing they're going on the TV, but not to the punters that's waiting online, that's waiting to put the bets on, waiting for an accurate going reading on Saturday morning. But as soon as the cameras, he's all about the cameras and can't have him. So there'll be pundits out there blowing smoke up his backside as usual, but we don't here. We tell it like it is. Anyway, on to the racing on Saturday, chaps, and obviously St Mark's Basilica. But a very eye-catching performance. At the time, I was waxing lyrical. Then I saw how slow they went. It was a slower time than the subsequent other mile and a quarter race. So they've obviously crawled. I've not got the sectionals with me at the moment, but obviously St Mark's Basilica would have a far superior turn of foot to the likes of Mishra and Adabe. The close proximity of El Drama in fourth also raises possible doubts on the form. and in the end, I stuck a rating of 122 on the winner. John, any thoughts on St Mark's Basilica?
Yeah, well, I don't know really. It would be the truthful answer. I think the proximity of the fourth horse indicates that the crawl for sure, you know. And I don't think Mishriff would be any way, shape, or form suited to 10 furlongs with an absolute crawl and maybe just a sustained sprint from whatever, you know. I mean, when did the Quicken and Balfour out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I certainly don't think that would have suited Mishriff. The other one's a Swamp Donkey, for me anyway. I mean, I've not seen it beat a good horse over here when he's been any better than good to soft. So I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to increase St Mark's Basilica's official rating on that, I think.
Yep, Chris, was it taken in your eyes?
Yeah, it was actually, but I say that only not just simply through the visual impression, but for me, Tabor, who came on afterwards, was uncharacteristically bubbling about it. Now, look, you obviously have to be very careful when the lads are concerned as to what they're trying to convey to you, but he did seem genuinely taken with the performance, and he seemed very, very upbeat. So I think if I had to put a gun to my head, I think this is probably the real deal as far as they're concerned, but it will be interesting to see where they go next. Great Vulcan.
John,
it's been priced up for anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the best 3-year-old, like sort of middle distance colt. Anyway, I mean, obviously the Derby winner of Godolphins is a completely different horse, but I mean the over a mile and a quarter, it's probably going to be the best 3-year-old colt, I think. But Poetic Flare might have a say in that, if that ever decides to go up in trip. I agree with John in a way that it's a very difficult task to put a rating on it, because all we've learnt there is that it's got a more of a turn of foot than a mile and a quarter back end slot monster. That's the best form Dave's got, which is winning in bottomless ground at Ascot at the Champions meeting, and obviously Mishriff. You know, I mean, the thing with Mishriff is that he's won out there, you know, in the sand, and he's won the Dubai Shima Classic at Maidan. But again, you're actually looking for solid European form, and he's yet to get. I mean, he's beaten Japan horses in the Shima. They've come out and won at Shartain and won in Japan. However, I'm not so sure that Mishriff is still up there as top class yet. You know, that's. I mean, I'd like to see more evidence. So again, it's very difficult to actually handicap and work out. But so I was impressed to start with, and then I sort of, as you analyse a race and you go through it and the time and everything, then you start to get less enthusiastic. So for now, I think given the public euphoria over it, as in a lot of the public on Twitter, Blogger and the Stallion, etc., you know, like cheering it as the second coming, I think there might be value actually opposing it next time, because I just think the public's gone to bed with it, because the public need a champion. The public are striving for an absolute champion, and they think they've got it. French Guineas, French Derby, Eclipse, you know, this is the real deal, right? But maybe not. It's early days yet. I mean, regarding St Mark's Basilica, Simon Smith on YouTube, he says he couldn't have had him beat before, and he did tweet that. He did message on YouTube before the race. He's a good judge, Simon Smith. If you follow our YouTube channel, he did like St Mark's Basilica. Ian Davis was asking how good do we think, you know, the form is with St Mark's Basilica. I think we've answered that. I think the jury's still out for us in that there's nothing cast iron. You can't put a time to the performance. He had an armchair ride in the French Derby, so it's still, the jury's out. Aaron Rhodes has also messaged in, and he said, catching up with yesterday's racing guys, he said, how has Dane O'Neill weighing 3 pounds over on May Danny. That's at 9 stone 4. Fat day, are we going to say, John?
Bloody hell, I didn't realise that.
Well, you had Dane Bowers on it, not Dane O'Neill.
But 3 pounds over, that's it. I've heard of it obviously at lower weights. I think that's probably the highest weight on a Saturday race I've heard of. 3 pounds over. That's
what
incredible.
The hell's going on there?
It's a lot there, isn't it?
The kilt must be absolutely furious, John. I mean,
it's cost him race, hasn't it?
Yeah, he's probably set off in his plane and done 3 circles in the middle in a rage.
Well, the fancy doing a Glenn Miller after that, won't he?
He might even beat Deirdre up after that. It's literally just. I mean, it's bizarre. I didn't know until Sir Aaron Rose pointed it out. Aaron also says St Mark's Basilica's burst of speed is even more impressive when you split the screen race with the preceding handicap won by Macron. Real slow pace to quicken like that. But Aaron, what I will say here is, if it's a slower time, it's gonna be able to quicken a lot faster than Macron. In all fairness, anyway. So I'm not so sure. I'm not really sure. Another tweet I looked at this week, gentlemen, is from Hunty Caller. And it was a good tweet, really. He said basically, with the football on Wednesday, if you were running the BHA, John, I'll come to you first. Would you either move the night meetings on Wednesday to an earlier time, because obviously everyone's watching the football, or would you just maybe not run them, or what would you do, or would you keep them as the same? Would you keep them running while the England game's on against Denmark?
I'd discuss it with the tracks and see if they'll remain amenable to it. I think it's poor enough racing that we're shown there hasn't been a stack of advanced ticket sales. I mean, no, I can see the benefit in moving it, shall we say.
It's a bit like the Ground Derby. I felt sorry for Bennett Star Sports. Because obviously he does a lot to promote the Ground Derby, which is flagging, to be fair. And obviously that was unlucky to clash with the Ukraine game. Obviously they're not going to get the media over that. So I mean, personally, if it was me, I would run them earlier. I would basically run them as twilight and probably finish it sort of an hour before kick-off, that kind of thing. There's no need to carry on, while England are playing, I don't think, given the 20 million watched the match on Saturday. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't think the BHA know there's any football on, so I don't think there's going to be any conversations in that regard, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No one's told them that England are playing football, that's the thing.
I have actually got an example here of BHA flexibility. I see they've already announced that on Champions Day, if there's heavy in the going description, they're going to use the jumps course for the round course races, which is another prime example of the BHA refusing to admit they've cocked everything up and got it completely wrong with the structure and timing of this meeting and where it's run at. And already putting the contingency plan in, ready for the Swamp Lake ground we can expect on Champions Day.
John, is this a prime example of the BHA's meddling in the fixture calendar? When you were so vociferous the other night when challenged on should we move the derby, and you were a categoric no.
Yeah.
And is this a prime example of they've messed about with Newmarket, Ascot's traditional Royal Lodge meeting, Newmarket's meetings they've messed about with and took races out of there. And it's like, is this a prime example of what a mess it's actually turned out?
I think it's absolutely sickening how it's turned out, to be perfectly honest. I think Champions Stakes is dead as regards it being a championship race because it's run on chest date rubbish. You've got a scenario where you've got the Middle Park and the Dewhurst on the same day, which is an absolute scandal that nobody's to get their arms around. And as regards like the Phillies Mile, the Royal Lodge, Mowat and Newmarket, again, it's just pitiful, absolutely pitiful. And however, like thought all this nonsense up, I sincerely hope their next shit is a hedgehog and it comes out backwards.
Carrying a pineapple.
Yeah, quit with a pineapple. I like it. Okay, so we'll carry on the BHA theme to sort of get towards the end of the show. And I don't know if you've seen, chaps, this week, the BHA new potential guidelines, rules and penalties on whip use. I'll just list some of the potentially new introduced rules. Basically, that they're saying that hands and heels must be used to encourage first prior to using the whip. After using the racing whip, the horse must be given a chance to respond. Must not be used when the horse is out of contention. Must not be used with excessive force. Must not be used above shoulder height. How does that work with Thrasher Morris? I mean, Thrasher Morris has been doing it for years and they don't say anything. He's finished. I mean, if they apply the rules, he's finished. He's Thrasher. So anyway, there's going to be tougher penalties apparently, real serious totting up procedures, and real serious. I mean, what's your take on all this? I'll come to you, John, first on the whip. What are we trying to achieve through this?
What we're trying to achieve is to appease people who will never like racing, basically. And I'll give you a prime example now. This is from PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. This is the header on their page on horse racing. They weigh more than 1,000 pounds, are supported by ankles the size of a human's, and are whipped and forced to run round tracks that are often made of hard-packed dirt and speeds of more than 30 miles per hour while carrying people on their backs. Racehorses are the victims of a multi-billion-dollar industry that is rife with drug abuse, injuries and race fixing, and many horses' careers end at the slaughterhouse. That is a way of pandering to with this whip nonsense. And it goes on, racing to the grave, horses begin training or are already racing when their skeletal systems are still growing. Absolute rubbish again, I mean, no thought of the fact that the thoroughbred racehorse has been bred to start racing at an early age. The studies on injuries and racetracks, 1 in every 22 races suffered an injury that prevented him or her from finishing a race. No differential between jump racing and flat racing there. I mean, these people want racing done away with. There is no ifs or buts about it. And these idiots, instead of standing their ground and telling PETA, Animal Aid, etc., to go and fuck themselves, the pandering.
Say what you mean, John. We're not clear.
Oh.
Brilliant. I mean, this is the thing. Right, I've got a scenario for you chaps now. So, do you remember the Rab Havlin situation on the Gosden horse at Lingfield, where basically everyone was laughing because he let Frankie win on the other Gosden runner on the horse called Havlin rode Stowell, and then they come out with we don't whip horses first time baloney, right? So what we're actually building up to here is more like, for me, is more punter devolvement in the sport because they're just fed up of seeing possible non-triers or possible, Now, if you take the whip out, like John Hines, who's a listener, and I respect his opinion. He's an in-running player, and he wants the whip banned. He doesn't like the whip, so I respect that opinion. That's a view withheld with a professional player, and he doesn't like the whip. However, imagine the scenarios where you then get a horse that's in about 4th place with a good chance of winning, who's then got to judge whether said rider's made sufficient effort. Because the one thing the whip does bring is like sufficient effort, as in, has that rider got the most out of that horse? Has he pushed the horse out to the line? as it had a couple of cracks of encouragement, as the BHA use. That's the word. Encouragement is the word used. Now, we've got problems because all of a sudden the horse that finishes third or fourth with a less than, can we say, aggressive ride is now protected. It's protected because basically the BHA are saying, well, how can you get anyone on sufficient effort? John?
Well, it's the key word would be encouragement, really, that the BHA love to bandy about. And the problem being, racing at the business end involves coercion, not encouragement. If there wasn't coercion, nothing would get up the Cheltenham Hill.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that's the uncomfortable truth about this sport. They are made to lay the guts out, and all right, they're superbly looked after the rest of the time, but on race day, they are expected to deliver. They're working animals, and that's the top and bottom of it. If we can't defend that, we're either in the wrong sport or we should be campaigning to have it done away with. I'm perfectly comfortable with it, and otherwise I wouldn't have stuck with racing as long as I have.
I mean, no one wants to see animals beaten up or mistreated. Far from it. But as John said, it's about it's an element of coercion, not encouragement. You're not sort of tickling their nose saying, "Go on, give me a bit more." You're giving them a couple of backhanders or whatever, with using a cushioned stick as well. I mean, I don't think racing's been very good at communicating the fact that we're not talking about very thin, switches of whatever. These are heavily cushioned implements. So, racing has moved in the right direction. But as John said, how far can you go with this?
It definitely is going the wrong direction for me, and I don't like the fact that no punters are represented on this panel.
Well, they don't exist, Lee. That's the problem. They don't exist in the minds of the people running the game. It's an irritation, an uncomfortable group of people that we'd rather, not see exist. So let's not bring them into the tent. That's the problem.
Yeah, and the problem for the BHA is that under their gross profits deal is that the very people funding the sport, again, are just cast aside. Their views are not important, and a bit like Saturday. That is the BHA's stance on punters. They don't care. It's not their problem. As long as the tills keep the wheels keep turning and the tills keep flowing, but it's a big turn off, I think. And as I said, it's interesting to where this is going to end up. It could be another real sort of bad turn for racing, I think. This, and I'm like John. I sit uncomfortable with this, and I'm comfortable with the current rules. I don't think there's any animal cruelty taking place.
I mean, actually, Lee, there's more horses now getting hit in the wrong place than there ever was before. And I'm absolutely convinced that's due to the whip being shorter and shorter and shorter. Half of these little buggers can't even reach horse's ass with them.
That's a fair point. Good point.
That's why they're hitting them in the soft part of the belly.
There's been several times I've seen when they've hit them, when they haven't, like you said, they haven't reached the hindquarters. Absolutely.
Yeah. True enough.
I think it used to ladder them, but bloody hell, it was always on the ass.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not good. Anyway, we'll move on to the final bit of the show, which is the Jimmy Lindley lovely pair of hands. Have you two chaps anything for Jimmy Lindley's section?
Well, mine ran yesterday, as you know, the Clive Cox thing with Darling Liam riding.
That was I'm going to mention this now. So, John asked me to look at a horse running yesterday, and it was unbelievable. It was in the 4:30 at Leicester yesterday. Invincible Soldier of Clive Cox's, and I said to John before the race, I said it's a great little find that. I said, but the fellow on top ain't going to help you much. and it was Liam Canary. And if anyone wants to watch it, he probably should have won 5 minutes. But as is the one, they finished second at a nice big price. And then next time, you're going to get absolutely no price for your money. It's probably, especially if they switch jockeys, it's probably going to end up, like if Adam Kirby rides it next time, it'll probably be 5-4. So yeah, he's very frustrated. Great dig out from John. But Invincible Soldier is one to probably put in your trackers, just in case you manage to obtain a price next time.
I think,
I
think anybody that does watch that replay, actually, I think I might have to contact the Racing Post and ask them to put one of them red triangles in the top corner of the screen. You know, like they used to be on them Channel 4 films with the bloke with no legs that used to run after you on his hands and things like that. It was that horrific.
Right. So, yeah, it's one to watch out for anyways, that one. Right. Mine is of a similar vein, really. It's more obvious than Dale Winton. And Oriental Art, which ran at Newbury on Thursday.
Yeah, that's mine.
Thursday, 1st of July. That's me and Chris is here with Oriental Art. Because, I mean, this was unbelievable. I mean, the betting stank. It was sort of 6-7 to 1 all day. I was sort of like nibbling away, filling my boots, thinking, well, this is bad. 8s, 9s, and then it was 10s, then 11s, then 12s, then 14s, then 18s on the off. And I'm thinking, this is just incredible. And it got the absolute ride to match. The thing is, if let's say it wasn't the day, and I can't, you can never say it wasn't off, but he didn't look off. Okay. But anyway, I mean, Ailey Turner on Oriental Art, she made ground up the far. Who comes up the far rail at Newbury trying to make ground from last? I've not seen it. Everyone swings down the middle, and then you've got clear daylight. But anyway, so she ran into the backs of horses, finished 5th, full of run, absolutely full of run. For me, would have won. Racing Post have even picked up on it, so it proves that it was eye catching because they've said, you know, would have been at least in the mix. I mean, what are these people doing? So what price are you next time? This is the reason I mentioned it. I mean, there's no point me keeping it private because it's more. I mean, these people are crazy. If that wasn't off or it wasn't meant to be that night, it's going to be 9-4 next time top.
Yeah,
you know, in any normal race. So why have they turned down a price like that? Anyway.
I've got 35 Simcock horses now in my tracker that I'm waiting to turn up at Doncaster in strongly run races. I don't
all run against each other by the sounds of it, I think.
I mean, John, what would Simcock's strike rate be if he actually decided I'm going to be like the Kilt for a month?
I just can't understand what he's doing, you know. I mean, everything's like bad. You can't have any stalls at his yard to do many stalls work. I mean, nothing's ever pinged the lid since he got a license, has it?
No.
You know, I mean, his only winner in his last 10 runners, unbelievably, Tura Lura, close up, early, going okay when pressed leader 2 out. Everything else you look at, in rear, pushed along, dwelt start, slowly into stride, towards rear, took Kane all, midfield.
Yeah, soon beaten. Yeah.
Even Eltham Place was a bit more positively ridden this week, but God almighty, I mean, poor Gracie, she's shown it up now as well off that mark and run second at 14s at Windsor, for God's sake. I mean, you know, that ride round a decent track, and I mean, it wins, doesn't it? But we knew it couldn't. I mean, just scroll down his horses. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. So, I mean, I cannot see the upside. It's not a positive return on investment to keep on holding horses up all the time. I don't know what it teaches them, really, to be sat last, having to quicken through traffic, and it just doesn't make sense. I'd love to. In fact, anyone get him on the show, we could actually
Yeah,
ask
get him
him.
on. Dave, they're calling you, mate. Come on.
So, what are you doing? You'd probably improve your strike rate by about, I don't know, 7 or 8% if you just went a little bit handy. You don't have to. No one says you have to make it, but it's like you say, sometimes just sit third or fourth.
Yeah,
maybe.
he should come on the show because we only want him on for 45 seconds, so we can say what the fucking hell is trying to do.
Exactly. I'm just going to end with a normal comment, which I'm sure comes. How many winners have you boys trained? There you go.
Maybe
You're
as many as
safe.
him.
Nearly as many as Simcock. Yeah.
And on that note, I think we'll call it a day. But those are two to follow: Invincible Soldier for John and Oriental Art for me and Chris, as the big eye catchers of last week. We're back on Wednesday night for that's me and John for the July Cup meeting preview. So please don't miss that, because we've got some tremendous bets for the July meeting this week, and you will be first to get them if you tune in on Wednesday evening. We'll have it ready before the England game. So if you don't want Tildesley's commentary, or you don't want the idiots commentating, you can listen to our thoughts on the July meeting while you're watching the game. That's all from us this week. We hope you enjoyed the show. Bye for now.